Yo, what's up, everyone? It's Piggy, and welcome back to 2D Gens. Today, we're doing something a little different. Everybody loves to talk about how good these up and coming prospects are and how the future is changing, but nobody likes to talk about where their cracks are. So, today, we're going to break down their weaknesses. No hate on any of them. We love all of them, and where it will play into their future. All right, first up, Atemba Gutierrez. Let me say this right now. This dude is dangerous. He has the touch of death in his hands, just like Alex Pereira and many other fighters. But there's a few question marks in his history of fighting, the inexperience, and we haven't seen him fight tired, fight off his back, or fight someone who won't panic when the bombs start flying. And the biggest issue I've noticed is his offensive wrestling. If we take a look into his combat sambo career, other than him knocking out 90% of the people in this, anyone who wasn't scared of the striking had free access to any type of takedown they wanted and usually ended up beating him by points. And even in this, he had no offensive wrestling to answer it besides hoping to get the power shot. Now, with this being said, he hasn't even gotten the chance to show where he's improved in this since his early career fights in Combat Sambo and other lesser promotions. But in my eyes, if he makes it up the rankings, people like Renier de Ritter will take him out, even Brennan Allen, Fluffy. I mean, Dragus Duplessis would have a lot of like chances for victory, taking him down and being able to sit there. Even the champion, Khamzat Chimaev, would be able to hold him down and get an easy win. So if he doesn't progress in his offensive and defensive grappling, I don't think he has a huge future in the rankings, and he might end up becoming a journeyman, which sucks to say. Now, next up is my personal favorite prospect by far, Quillian Soclade. And it's interesting because his skill set seems very legit, but everyone has one weakness that every camp targets. And I think it's more subtle here. He gets hit a lot. I wouldn't say he gets rocked, but his striking defense percentages are very low, and people can hit him. So once he meets a power hitter or someone that is very accurate with strikes, it might be too much for him to handle. And you can't afford to eat that many shots, even to land your own, especially at 155 with all the killers and everyone that's in it. And he has one submission loss on his record, but I personally don't think that's a huge issue. I just think it was that fight. I think his grappling is very well and very rounded. I really just think it's his striking defense. And I think in his, not his last fight, but the fight before that, all the scrambles and to get back up to his feet all looked amazing. But pressure grapplers may be able to handle him a lot better than certain strikers, especially after the head kick. He does seem very dangerous when he's flowing. So I think the key to beating him is to not let him get comfortable, especially since he's not as experienced as a lot of other fighters at lightweight who have been fighting for a long time. He's still pretty young and pretty new. His record isn't that deep. Uh, but I hope he makes it very high in the rankings, and I hold him very high in my eyes. I really think he is next up in the top 15 in the lightweight division, especially if he works on his scrambling abilities and his guard to not get hit as much as he does now. Now, the next fighter I want to talk about is Josh Hokic. He is an absolute athlete, clearly, from the wrestling background to the NFL. He has power and heavy hands, and he's been exposing his way through the heavyweight division quickly in many different organizations. I think his main weakness is 100% his cardio. I mean, it's clear as day he's in heavyweight. And his last fight, or his Dana White contenders fight, When he got to the second round, clearly he was a little fresher, but definitely didn't get as early as a finish as he expected, and it definitely slowed down his hands in offensive wrestling. And his striking defense isn't super layered, it's very fresh and very new, as he is newer to the sport, coming from other sports. And we haven't seen him go past 2 rounds, and we might see it sooner than later if he keeps fighting as consistent and how lackluster the heavyweight division has been the past few years. That eventually, when he gets to the top, if someone can keep up with his wrestling, which in my eyes, I don't know many in the heavyweight division, may be able to survive early and drag him deeper, like Tom, Gone, literally anyone, and make him just gas out and his explosions end right there. Now, I think a great future matchup in the rankings, because heavyweight's very slim pickings when it comes to future matchups that people will actually want to see if it's not a super high rank, is him versus Walter Walker, someone else who can easily fight off the back and has very nice grappling with all the heel hooks and stuff. With Josh Hokic being a two-time All-American and very great offensive wrestling, and we haven't got to see it, but I could only assume very good defensive wrestling. I want to see how his MMA grappling transitions with someone that can actually grapple in the heavyweight division and make it out of the first round, even if we don't see it too much, because I'm going to be honest, both of their striking is terrible even for the heavyweight division. I mean, just look at Walter Walker versus Kennedy and Josh. Most of his fights, it's just two fat guys swinging at each other. So I hope he improves. I'm not saying he's my favorite prospect. His personality is a lot, but I can understand why people want to see him do well. Now, the next prospect is probably one of David's favorites, who we actually tend to talk about a lot and have made videos about in the past, calling him almost a British Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. His name is Loner Kavanaugh. His last fight, he got knocked out by Charles Johnson, but before that, he had some pretty sick fights you might want to look up. And he's very, very young in the flyweight division. And I think his biggest weakness is honestly his discipline on pace control and his defensive discipline. When he feels like he's winning the fight, he puts his hands down a lot. He can get over aggressive in exchanges, and he's willing to eat one, to land one, and trust his chin, which was honestly his downfall in the Charles Johnson fight. He really was in his head, feeling himself. He landed one, started to back up, a little tired, put his hands down, and Charles got off on it. He jumped for it and knocked him out clean, spun his head around. And against lower level competition, that clearly works great. I mean, it makes you look like a fucking superhero. But against UFC level guys, especially that are now in the rankings like Charles, it gets you punished and it definitely bites you in the ass if you continue to do it. And I think he puts a lot into moments like big shots, big flurries, and that burns energy very quickly. So I think if an opponent survives the early chaos, forces clinch work, makes it a little sloppy to where Loner doesn't think he's winning the exchanges, he tends to lose the motivation to keep fighting in a way, and he's honestly amazing. But if you make him miss and don't brawl in the way he's looking for, like emotionally, and drag him into a patient, calm, back and forth fight, it's where he starts to slow down and get caught and possibly get knocked out, which we just saw recently. Now, I also want to add Charles Johnson being the one to knock him out isn't such a bad thing because Charles is freshly in the rankings. But just to shine light on Charles's past resume, he did also do almost the same exact thing to Joshua Van, who is now the champion. So he could be seeing a rocket on the back of Loner's back, and he could just fly up
and Charles might just be a gem. Every prospect he knocks out, because he's known as a prospect killer, always ends up very well rounded and in the rankings.
So yeah, that's the breakdown of all of your favorite up and coming prospects, greatest weaknesses. Every fighter has their weaknesses, of course. This isn't
Hateful or hating on these prospects. It's just MMA, and we love pretty much all of them. I mean, there's some questionable prospects, of course. Some guys fix them and become champions and monsters. Others don't and find their way out of the UFC, of course. Um, if you want more breakdowns like this and more videos like this, let us know below. Make sure you subscribe. This is Piggy. David will probably be in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.